Imagine this. A man who robs the rich but doesn't keep it all for himself. Instead, he shares it with those who need it most. By late 1985, that was exactly what Anini was doing. But why did he take such risks? And how did he manage to stay one step ahead of the law? Let's dive into the story. Anini wasn't satisfied with being just another notorious criminal, he wanted more. His vision wasn't just to accumulate wealth, but to be a symbol for the people, a hero who stood against the powerful and supported the weak. He wanted to be remembered as the man who challenged the system and won the hearts of those who felt abandoned by it. His plan began to take shape after one of his biggest heists, a daring attack on a well-guarded convoy transporting funds from the city's central bank. This wasn't just any robbery. Anini and his men had planned it meticulously, studying the routes, noting guard shifts, and calculating the exact time to strike. The heist went off almost flawlessly. They ambushed the convoy late at night, using a combination of speed and surprise. The guards were caught off guard as masked figures moved like shadows, seizing the cash in minutes before disappearing into the dark streets. With bags full of naira notes, Anini's gang celebrated their success. But while some of his men counted their share with greedy eyes, Anini had a different idea. He ordered that a portion of the money be set aside, not for their next mission, but for the people. Giving back to the street. Under the cover of night, Anini went into the poorest neighborhood of Benin City. His face was mostly hidden by the shadow of his wide-brimmed hat as he walked through the narrow, dimly lit alleys. He passed by homes where families huddled on the floor, barely surviving on their last meal. When he reached a small crowd, he stopped and called out, "Come. Take this and feed your children," he said, handing out wads of cash. The people stared at him, their faces a mix of astonishment and disbelief. Some even hesitated, thinking it was a cruel joke, but the money in their hands felt real enough. An old woman, clutching her thin shawl, stepped forward with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice shaking. Word of Anini's generosity spread like wildfire. By morning, the city was abuzz with stories of how the infamous bandit was giving away his stolen riches. To the poor, Anini became a symbol of hope, a man who defied the powerful and shared his victories with those who had nothing. He was no longer just a robber, he was the Robin Hood of Benin City. A hero or a villain. This newfound fame put Anini in a unique position. He was both feared and revered. Street vendors whispered stories of him as they laid out their wares, children made up games pretending to be him, and market women spoke of him with a mix of fear and admiration. "Did you hear? Anini helped the widowed mother down the street," one man said to his neighbor, leaning in close so no one else would hear. "Yes. My cousin saw him handing out money. He's like a hero," the neighbor replied, shaking his head in disbelief. But not everyone saw him as a hero. To the police, he was the biggest threat they had ever faced. Each successful heist was an embarrassment, a public reminder that they were losing control of the city. Stay tuned and enjoy, while you await the full move of Anini in the next episode, where Anini's intense moves will unfold.